The cargo bay of the Nexus Dawn was cold and dark when Captain Tejo found the human. The man was curled up behind a stack of metal containers, sleeping on a pile of old shipping blankets. His clothes were dirty and torn. His hair was long and messy. A worn military jacket served as his pillow. "What do we have here?" Tejo muttered to himself. His forearms crossed over his chest as he studied the sleeping figure. The Vreeland captain had seen many stowaways in his 20 years of running cargo ships, but humans were becoming more common these days. The sound of footsteps echoed through the bay. First Officer Haya Jin appeared at his side. She was also Vreeland, but younger than Tejo. Her blue skin had the shine of someone who spent most of her time on clean starships instead of dirty planets. "Sir, is that a human?" she asked. Her voice carried the careful tone that diplomats used when they wanted to avoid trouble. "Looks like it," Tejo replied. "Wake him up." Jin approached the sleeping man and gently shook his shoulder. "Hey, wake up!" The human's eyes snapped open instantly. They were dark brown and alert, not confused like someone who had been in deep sleep. He sat up slowly, keeping his hands visible. His movements were careful and controlled. "Sorry," the human said. His voice was quiet and rough. "I know I shouldn't be here." "No, you shouldn't," Tejo agreed. "What's your name?" "Jin Woo." The human stood up. He was average height for his species, maybe 40 years old. His face showed lines from too much sun and worry. "I can work. I don't need much food." Engineer Boram arrived with heavy footsteps. The Zenthari was built like a rock, with gray skin and small eyes that missed nothing. "Captain, the cargo manifest is complete. We found this." She held up a small bag with some clothes and an empty water bottle. "That's mine," Jin Woo said. Boram looked at him with suspicion. "How did you get on my ship?" "Docking Bay 7 on Kepler Station," Jin Woo answered honestly. "I hid when they loaded the containers." Tejo studied the human's face. Most stowaways lied when caught. They made up stories about being refugees or having family to reach. This one just told the truth. That was unusual. "Captain," Jin said quietly, "we should contact station security. They can send a transport to take him back." "No," Jin Woo said quickly. "Please, I can't go back there." "Why not?" Tejo asked. Jin Woo was quiet for a long moment. "Bad memories." Navigator Sung Min joined the group. The tall, thin alien had green skin and moved like a dancer. "Captain, we are scheduled to depart in 2 hours. If we're returning the human, we need to do it now." Tejo looked at Jin Woo again. The human wasn't begging or making promises he couldn't keep. He just stood there, waiting for judgment. Something about that impressed the captain. "What kind of work can you do?" Tejo asked. "Basic maintenance, cleaning, loading cargo. I know ships." Jin Woo's answer was simple and direct. "Have you been on ships before?" "Yes." Boram stepped forward. "Captain, we don't know anything about him. He could be dangerous. He could be running from the law." "Are you?" Tejo asked Jin Woo. "Not the way you mean." It was an interesting answer. Tejo had been around long enough to know that sometimes the most honest people were the ones running from things that weren't crimes. War did things to people. He had seen it before. "We have spare quarters in Section C," Tejo decided. "Small room, but it has a bed and a water unit. You work 4 hours a day helping Boram with maintenance. You eat in the crew mess. You cause no trouble." Jin looked surprised. "Captain, are you sure about this?" "The Galactic Trade Union requires us to help refugees when possible," Tejo reminded her. "This human is clearly in need." "I'm not a refugee," Jin Woo said quietly. Then, "What are you?" Jin Woo picked up his small bag. "Just someone trying to get far away from where he was." Boram wasn't happy, but she nodded. "Fine. But he stays out of the engine room unless I'm with him." and he doesn't touch anything important. Understood, Jin Woo said, communications officer. Dae-Yoon's voice came through the ship's speakers. Captain, we have clearance for departure. All systems ready. Take us out, Sung-min, Tae-ho ordered. As the group broke up, Jin Woo remained in the cargo bay. He looked around at the containers and equipment with eyes that seemed to take in every detail. His gaze stopped on a small maintenance panel that was slightly open. That panel needs to be secured before we jump to hyperspace, he said to Bo-Ram. The Zenthari engineer looked where he was pointing. Her expression changed to surprise. How did you know that? The vibration pattern. It will get worse once we hit high speed. Bo-Ram walked over and checked the panel. 3 bolts were indeed loose. Good catch, she admitted grudgingly. Jin Woo nodded and walked toward the quarters Tae-ho had assigned him. As he left, Bo-Ram noticed something odd. The human moved through the ship corridors like he knew where he was going, even though this was supposedly his first time aboard. In his small quarters, Jin Woo sat on the narrow bed and looked around. The room was basic but clean. It had everything he needed and nothing he didn't. Perfect for someone who wanted to disappear. He pulled out the only thing of value he owned. It was a small data pad, old and worn. The screen showed star charts and navigation routes. For just a moment, his fingers traced a path through the Kepler sector. His eyes showed knowledge and experience that didn't match his appearance as a simple vagrant. Then he turned off the pad and hid it in his bag. Tomorrow, he would start his new life as just another human drifter working for passage. No one needed to know what he had been before. Up on the bridge, Navigator Sung-min was plotting their course through space. The ship was heading for the Crimson Nebula, a region known for electromagnetic storms. It was a common shipping route, but it required careful navigation. Course plotted and confirmed, Sung-min reported. Good, Captain Tae-ho replied. Let's hope for smooth sailing. Neither of them knew that in the cargo bay, their new passenger had spent the last hour quietly checking emergency supplies and escape pod locations. Old habits were hard to break, especially for someone whose survival had once depended on always being prepared for the worst. Jin Woo lay down on his bed and closed his eyes. For the first time in months, he felt safe enough to actually sleep. The Nexus Dawn was a good ship with a decent crew. Maybe he could find some peace here, at least, for a while. He had no idea that peace was the one thing he would not be allowed to keep. 3 days into the journey, Jin Woo had settled into a quiet routine aboard the Nexus Dawn. He worked his 4 hours each day, helping engineer Bo-Ram clean filters and check systems. The rest of the time, he stayed out of everyone's way. The crew barely noticed him anymore. That morning, Jin Woo was replacing worn cables in a maintenance shaft when he heard voices from the bridge above. The ship's communication system carried sound through the metal walls. He could hear worry in their voices. The readings don't make sense, Navigator Sung-min was saying. This storm system is 3 times larger than anything in our records. Jin Woo stopped working and listened more carefully. How much larger? Captain Tae-ho asked. It covers half the nebula. The electromagnetic readings are off the charts. I've never seen anything like it. Jin Woo climbed out of the maintenance shaft and walked quietly toward the bridge. He stayed in the corridor where he could hear but not be seen. Communications Officer Dae-Yoon's voice was tense. Captain, I'm getting emergency signals from the outer system. The cargo ship Morning Star went dark 2 hours ago. The passenger liner Golden Wing stopped transmitting 20 minutes ago. Both ships were ahead of us on the same route, Sung-min added. There was silence on the bridge for a moment. Jin Woo could picture the crew looking at each other with growing alarm. Options? Captain Tae-ho asked. We could turn back, First Officer Hye-jin suggested. Return to Kepler Station and wait for the storm to pass. That would cost us a week, Tae-ho replied. Our cargo is needed at Proxima Colony. They're expecting medical supplies. Jin Woo frowned. He knew about Proxima Colony. They had suffered a plague outbreak last month. Those medical supplies could save thousands of lives, but he also knew about storms in the Crimson Nebula. They were dangerous even under normal conditions. "What about going around?" Da-Un asked. "That would add 4 days to our journey," Sung-min answered. "And we'd have to pass through Raider territory." Jin-Woo quietly moved closer to the bridge entrance. Through the doorway, he could see the main display screen. It showed a swirling mass of red and orange clouds. Lightning flashed inside the nebula. The storm system looked angry and alive. But Jin-Woo saw something else. The storm had patterns. Most people looked at space storms and saw chaos. Jin-Woo saw structure. He saw the way the electromagnetic fields moved in spirals. He saw how the lightning followed predictable paths. "Captain," he said softly from the doorway. Everyone on the bridge turned to look at him. Bo-Ram scowled. "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be working." "I finished the cable replacement," Jin-Woo said. He looked at the display screen. "I might know something about this storm," Jin laughed. "You're a vagrant. What could you possibly know about stellar meteorology?" Jin-Woo ignored the insult. He stepped onto the bridge and pointed at the screen. "The storm has 3 main circulation centers. See how the energy flows between them? It's not random." Sung-min looked where Jin-Woo was pointing. "I don't see any pattern." "The lightning," Jin-Woo explained. "It follows the magnetic field lines. Those lines connect the 3 centers. If you plot a course that stays between the field lines, you can avoid the worst of the electromagnetic interference." Captain Tae-ho studied Jin-Woo's face. "Where did you learn about space storms?" "Here and there," Jin-Woo answered. "I've been on a lot of ships." It wasn't exactly a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Jin-Woo had learned about space storms during his years in the Human Defense Fleet. He had navigated through dozens of them during wartime when enemy ships used storms as cover for attacks. Bo-Ram crossed her arms. "Even if he's right about the patterns, our sensors can't track magnetic field lines in real time. We'd be flying blind." "Not blind," Jin-Woo said quietly. "You can read the patterns if you know what to look for. The way the storm clouds move, the color changes in the electromagnetic discharge, the frequency of the lightning strikes." Da-Un checked her instruments. "Captain, I'm getting another distress signal. The mining ship Rock Crusher is requesting immediate assistance. They're caught in the storm's outer edge." On the screen, they could see the tiny blip that represented the mining ship. It was flashing red, indicating emergency. "Status. How far?" Tae-ho asked. 6 hours at maximum speed," Sung-min replied. "But we'd have to go directly through the storm to reach them." Jin looked worried. "Captain, if we go in there and get caught like the other ships..." "Then people die," Tae-ho finished. "Both the miners and the colonists waiting for medical supplies." Jin-Woo studied the display more carefully. He could see the storm's movement patterns. The 3 circulation centers were slowly rotating around each other. In about 8 hours, there would be a narrow corridor of relatively calm space between 2 of the centers. "There's a window," he said. "In 8 hours, the storm pattern will shift. There will be a clear path through the middle. It will only last about 2 hours, but it would be enough time to reach the mining ship and continue to Proxima." "How can you be sure?" Bo-Ram demanded. Jin-Woo was quiet for a moment. He couldn't tell them about his years of military experience. He couldn't explain that he had seen similar storm patterns during the Battle of Vega Prime, when Admiral Chen had used a stellar storm to hide his fleet from enemy sensors. "I've seen storms like this before," he said finally. "The pattern always repeats." Captain Tae-ho looked at his crew. "Opinions?" "It's too risky," Jin said. "We should turn back." "The mining ship will die if we don't help them," Da-Un pointed out. "And the colonists need those medical supplies," Sung-min added. Bo-Ram was studying Jin-Woo suspiciously. "How does a vagrant know so much about storm navigation?" "Does it matter?" Tae-ho asked. "If he's right, we can save lives. If he's wrong..." The captain didn't finish the sentence. Jin-Woo stepped closer to the navigation console. May I show you something? Sungmin looked at the captain, who nodded. Jinwoo's fingers moved over the controls with practiced ease. He called up a detailed scan of the storm system and began highlighting specific areas. See these energy readings? He pointed to several spots on the display. They show where the magnetic fields are weakest. A ship could follow this path and avoid the worst interference. Boram watched Jinwoo's hands as he worked the console. His movements were precise and confident. This wasn't the fumbling of someone who had picked up things here and there. This was the work of someone with serious training. Who are you really? She asked quietly. Jinwoo's hands stopped moving. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe. Or guilt. Then it was gone. Just someone who's been around, he said. Captain Taeho made his decision. We'll wait for the window you described. If the storm pattern shifts like you predict, we'll make our run. If it doesn't, we turn back. Understood, Captain, the crew replied. As they left the bridge, Boram grabbed Jinwoo's arm. I don't know what your story is, but I'm watching you. If you're putting my ship in danger, I'm trying to keep it safe, Jinwoo replied. He walked back to his quarters, leaving Boram with more questions than answers. In his room, Jinwoo pulled out his old datapad and called up files he hadn't looked at in years. Storm navigation, charts, battle reports, personnel records of ships lost in the Proxima sector. He knew this storm. Not this exact one, but others like it. He had guided entire fleets through worse conditions, but that was when he was Admiral Jinwoo Kang, commander of the Human Defense Fleet. Now he was just a vagrant trying to save a mining crew and some colonists. It should have been simple. But Jinwoo knew that in 8 hours, when the storm window opened, his old life might come back to haunt him. Outside his small window, the Crimson Nebula grew larger and more threatening with each passing hour. 8 hours later, Jinwoo's prediction came true. The storm pattern shifted exactly as he had said it would. A narrow corridor of space opened between two of the massive circulation centers. Captain Taeho gave the order to proceed. Take us. In. Sungmin, he commanded. The Nexus Dawn moved forward into the Crimson Nebula. At first, everything seemed normal. The ship's shields handled the light electromagnetic interference easily. The crew began to relax. Then the real storm hit. The corridor Jinwoo had predicted lasted exactly 90 minutes, but the storm was growing stronger. What had been a narrow path of calm space suddenly erupted with violent energy discharges. Lightning arced across the nebula in massive bolts that could destroy a ship instantly. Shields at 60%, Boram reported from the engine room. Her voice was tight with worry. The ship shook as electromagnetic pulses hammered the hull. Sparks flew from control panels on the bridge. The lights flickered and went out for several seconds before the backup power kicked in. Navigation sensors are down, Sungmin announced. I can't see where we're going. Communications officer Da-un tried to reach the mining ship Rock Crusher, but only static came through the speakers. Communication array is damaged. We're completely cut off. Captain Taeho gripped his command chair as the ship rolled violently. How long until we clear the storm? At least 4 hours, Sungmin replied. Maybe more if we have to go around the worst areas. Another massive pulse hit the ship. This time, the artificial gravity failed completely. Everyone on the bridge floated into the air, grabbing onto whatever they could find. Emergency alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Gravity generators are offline, Boram's voice came through the communication system. Hull breach in Section D. I'm sealing the emergency doors. Hee-jin looked panicked. Captain, we have to turn back. We can't, Taeho replied. The path behind us has closed. We're committed now. That was when Jinwoo appeared on the bridge. He moved through the zero gravity like someone who had done it thousands of times before. His movements were smooth and controlled, nothing like the clumsy efforts of the alien crew members. Captain, he said calmly, I need access to your emergency command protocols. What? Taeho stared at him in confusion. Your ship is dying, Jin-Woo continued. In about 10 minutes, the next electromagnetic pulse will overload your main power grid. After that, life support fails. Boram's voice crackled over the communicator. He's right, Captain. The power systems can't take much more of this. Jin-Woo pulled himself to the main control console. I can reroute power through the secondary systems, but I need command authorization. Security Chief Kyung-ho pushed himself across the bridge, toward Jin-Woo. The large alien's face was full of suspicion. Wait, how does a Vagrant know about our emergency protocols? Does it matter right now? Jin-Woo asked. Another violent shake threw everyone against the walls. More systems failed. The bridge filled with smoke from burning electronics. Shields down to 20%, Boram reported. We won't survive another hit like that. Captain Taeho looked at Jin-Woo. The human's eyes were steady and confident. Everyone else on the bridge looked terrified. Taeho made his decision. Do it, he ordered. Emergency authorization granted. Jin-Woo's hands flew over the control console. He worked with incredible speed and precision, accessing systems that should have taken hours to understand. Within minutes, he had rerouted power from non-essential systems to strengthen the shields. Shields back to 40%, Boram announced with surprise in her voice. But Jin-Woo wasn't finished. He moved to the navigation station and began plotting a new course through the storm. His fingers danced over the controls as if he had been using this exact system for years. What are you doing? Sung-min asked. Getting us out of here alive, Jin-Woo replied. He had found something the others had missed. The storm had 3 circulation centers, but there was a 4th area where the electromagnetic fields canceled each other out. It was incredibly dangerous to reach, requiring precise timing and perfect navigation, but it was their only chance. There's a null zone between the storm centers, Jin-Woo explained. If we can reach it, we'll be protected from the worst interference. How do you know that? Hyejin demanded. Jin-Woo didn't answer. He was too busy calculating trajectories and power requirements. His mind worked like a computer, processing dozens of variables simultaneously. Kyung-ho floated closer to him. I'm not letting some unknown human take control of this ship. Then we all die, Jin-Woo said simply. Your choice. Captain Taeho held up a hand to stop Kyung-ho. Let him work. Jin-Woo began giving orders with the authority of someone accustomed to command. Boram, I need all power to the engines for the next 60 seconds. Dayun, prepare to boost the communication array the moment we clear the interference. Sung-min, when I tell you, adjust our heading by exactly 12 degrees starboard. The crew hesitated. They weren't used to taking orders from a Vagrant. But something in Jin-Woo's voice made them listen. It was the voice of a leader, someone who had commanded in life-or-death situations before. Now, Jin-Woo ordered. The Nexus Dawn shot forward through the storm. Lightning flashed around them, missing the ship by meters. Jin-Woo guided them through the chaos with perfect timing, calling out course corrections and power adjustments. 10 degrees port, reduce speed by half, divert power to forward shields. The ship responded to his commands like a dancer following music. Every move was precise and calculated. The crew began to realize they were witnessing something extraordinary. There, Jin-Woo said finally. We're in the null zone. Suddenly, the violent shaking stopped. The lightning continued to flash around them, but they were in a pocket of calm space. The ship's systems began to stabilize. Incredible, Sung-min whispered. It's like being in the eye of a hurricane. Jin-Woo was already working on the next problem. Da-yun, try to contact the rock crusher now. The communications officer adjusted her equipment. After a few moments, a weak signal came through. Rock, Crusher, this is Nexus Dawn. Do you copy? A desperate voice replied. Nexus Dawn, thank the stars. We're badly damaged and losing life support. Can you reach us? Jin Woo studied the sensor readings. The mining ship was trapped in one of the storm's circulation centers, battered by constant electromagnetic discharge. Getting to them would require leaving the safety of the null zone. "I can get us there," he told Captain Tae-ho, "but it will be dangerous." "More dangerous than what we just did?" "Yes." Tae-ho looked around at his crew. They were all staring at Jin Woo with a mixture of amazement and confusion. This vagrant had just saved their lives using skills that shouldn't exist. "Who are you?" the captain asked quietly. Jin Woo was silent for a long moment. Then he straightened up, and his entire posture changed. The slouching vagrant disappeared, replaced by someone who clearly belonged in command of a starship. Someone who's very good at getting people out of bad situations, he said. "That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give you right now." Jin Woo turned back to the controls. "Do you want me to save those miners or not?" Captain Tae-ho nodded, slowly. "Do it." As Jin Woo began plotting a rescue course, Bo-Ram watched him carefully. She noticed the way he held himself, the confidence in his movements, the ease with which he understood complex systems. This was no ordinary vagrant. "Whoever you are," she said quietly, "I'm glad you're on our side." Jin Woo didn't reply. He was too busy preparing for the most dangerous part of their journey. Outside the ship, the storm raged with incredible fury. But for the first time since entering the nebula, the crew of the Nexus Dawn had hope. They had found their leader. Now, they just had to trust him to bring them all home alive. The rescue mission to reach the rock crusher required Jin Woo to do something that should have been impossible. The mining ship was trapped in the heart of one of the storm's circulation centers, surrounded by electromagnetic chaos that could fry any ship's systems in seconds. "The approach has to be perfect," Jin Woo explained to the crew. "We have one chance. If we miss the timing by even a few seconds, we'll be torn apart." Engineer Bo-Ram studied the plan on her console. "This is insane. You want to use the storm's own energy to power our shields?" "The electromagnetic discharge follows predictable patterns," Jin Woo replied. "We can ride the energy waves instead of fighting them. It's like surfing, but in space." "Surfing?" Navigator Sung Min looked confused. "What is surfing?" "An old human activity," Jin Woo explained. "You use the ocean's power to carry you instead of swimming against it." Captain Tae-ho shook his head. "I've never heard of any ship doing something like this." "That's because most people think it's impossible," Jin Woo said. "But humans have a different way of looking at problems." He began modifying the ship's shield generators in ways that made Bo-Ram nervous. Instead of creating a solid barrier around the ship, Jin Woo was programming them to flex and bend with the electromagnetic pulses. "You're going to get us all killed," Security Chief Kyung-ho muttered. "Maybe," Jin Woo admitted. "But doing nothing will definitely get those miners killed." Communications Officer Da-Yoon was monitoring the rock crusher's distress signals. "Their life support is failing fast. They have maybe 2 hours of air left." "Then we better hurry," Jin Woo said. He took manual control of the ship's navigation system. His hands moved over the controls with incredible skill, making tiny adjustments that the computer couldn't calculate fast enough. The Nexus Dawn began moving toward the storm center. As they left the safety of the null zone, the ship immediately began shaking again. But this time was different. Instead of fighting the storm, Jin Woo was working with it. When an electromagnetic pulse hit their shields, he adjusted their course to turn the energy into forward momentum. "Impossible," Bo-Ram whispered as she watched her instruments. "The power levels should be tearing us apart, but they're actually making us faster." "Humans think differently than other species," Jin Woo explained while making rapid course corrections. "We don't just solve problems. We turn problems into solutions." Medical Officer So Young had joined them on the bridge to monitor the crew's health during the dangerous maneuver. She watched Jin Woo with fascination. How are you staying so calm? Your heart rate is actually lower than normal. Training, Jinwoo replied simply. What kind of training teaches someone to do this? Captain Taeho asked. Jinwoo was quiet for several seconds. Then he said, the kind you get when other people's lives depend on your decisions every day. They were getting closer to the rock. Crusher. Through the chaos of the storm, they could see the mining ship tumbling helplessly. Its hull was blackened from repeated electromagnetic strikes. One of its engine pods was completely gone. There, Jinwoo pointed to a specific spot on the scanner. We have a 10-second window when the storm energy will create a pocket of calm space around their ship. That's when we dock. 10 seconds? Hyejin looked terrified. That's impossible. For most people, yes, Jinwoo agreed. But I'm not most people. He began the final approach. The Nexus Dawn rode the electromagnetic waves like a leaf on a hurricane wind. Jinwoo's hands never stopped moving, making constant tiny adjustments to keep them in the narrow safe zone between the energy discharges. 5 seconds to the window, he announced. The storm raged around them with incredible violence. Lightning. Bolts larger than starships flashed through space. Any one of them could destroy both vessels instantly. 3 seconds. Boram held her breath. The engineering readings showed power levels that should have been lethal. 1 second. Now! Jinwoo executed a maneuver that defied physics. He used the ship's artificial gravity generator to create a localized space distortion, pulling the Nexus Dawn into perfect alignment with the Rock Crusher's docking port. The two ships connected with a gentle bump that felt like a kiss. Docking. Complete! Sungmin announced in amazement. The rescue took 45 minutes. The Rock Crusher's crew of 12 miners were barely alive when they came aboard. Medical officer So Young and her team worked frantically to treat radiation poisoning and oxygen deprivation. But getting away from the storm center was even harder than reaching it. The electromagnetic interference had increased while they were docked. The safe pathways Jinwoo had identified were closing rapidly. We need to leave now, he told Captain Taeho. The storm pattern is shifting. Can we make it out the same way we came in? No. That route is gone. Jinwoo studied the sensor readings carefully. There's another way, but it requires something. Your people have probably never tried. What? We have to fly directly through a lightning discharge. The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at Jinwoo as if he had lost his mind. Lightning in space can be thousands of kilometers wide, Boram protested. It would vaporize us instantly. Not if we match its frequency, Jinwoo explained. Lightning is just organized energy. If we can synchronize our shields with the discharge pattern, we can ride inside the bolt itself. That's theoretical physics, Sungmin said. No one has ever actually done it. I have, Jinwoo said quietly. The admission hung in the air like a bomb. Captain Taeho stared at him with growing understanding. When? He asked. A long time ago. In a different life. Jinwoo began preparing the ship for the most dangerous maneuver any of them had ever attempted. He rerouted power from every non-essential system, including most of the life support. They would have only minutes to complete the run before the air became too thin to breathe. Everyone strap in, he ordered. And if you believe in any gods, now would be a good time to pray to them. The massive lightning bolt he had chosen was forming in the distance. It stretched across space like a river of pure energy, connecting two storm centers. In 30 seconds, it would reach full power. Are you sure about this? Captain Taeho asked. Jinwoo's hands were steady on the controls. His eyes showed the confidence of someone who had faced death many times before. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The lightning bolt reached full intensity. It was beautiful and terrifying, a column of energy that could power an entire star system. Jinwoo aimed the Nexus Dawn directly at its center. Here we go, he said. The ship shot forward into the heart of the lightning. For a moment, everyone thought they were going to die. The energy around them was so intense it turned the viewports white. The ship's hull groaned under impossible stresses, but Jin Woo had calculated perfectly. The Nexus Dawn's shields resonated in harmony with the lightning's frequency. Instead of being destroyed, they were carried along inside the energy discharge like a boat riding a river current. In less than 60 seconds, they emerged from the other end of the lightning bolt, safely outside the storm system. The Crimson Nebula fell away behind them, still raging with violent beauty. "We're clear," Sungmin announced in disbelief. "We actually made it!" The bridge erupted in cheers. The crew had survived something that should have been impossible. They had rescued 12 miners and delivered medical supplies that would save thousands of colonists. But as the celebration died down, all eyes turned to Jin Woo. He had slumped back in his chair, exhaustion finally showing on his face. The confident commander was gone, replaced once again by a tired man who looked much older than his years. "Who are you, really?" Captain Taeho asked for the third time. Jin Woo looked around at the faces of the crew. They had trusted him with their lives. They deserved to know the truth. "My name is Admiral Jin Woo Kang," he said quietly. "Former commander of the Human Defense Fleet, and 3 years ago, I was the man who lost the Battle of Proxima Gate." The silence on the bridge was complete. Everyone in this part of the galaxy knew about Proxima Gate. It had been the largest space battle in recent history and humanity's most devastating defeat. "I thought Admiral Kang died in that battle," Hye-jin whispered. "He did," Jin Woo replied. "The man you see now is just what's left." The silence on the bridge stretched for what felt like hours. Communications Officer Da-un was the first to speak. "Admiral Jin Woo Kang," she whispered, "the hero of Vega Prime, the man who saved the civilian evacuation fleets." "I'm not a hero," Jin Woo said firmly. "Heroes don't lose entire battle groups. Heroes don't watch their friends die because of their mistakes." Captain Taeho leaned forward in his command chair. "The records say you died when your flagship was destroyed. How are you here?" Jin Woo closed his eyes. The memories were still painful after 3 years. "My ship, the Terra's Wrath, took heavy damage during the final engagement. We were covering the retreat of the last civilian transports. The enemy focused everything they had on us. But you got the civilians out," Navigator Sungmin said. "The history books say you saved over 2 million people. I lost 4,000. "Crew members doing it," Jin Woo replied bitterly. 4,000 people who trusted me to bring them home." Engineer Boram studied his face carefully. "What really happened at Proxima Gate?" Jin Woo was quiet for a long moment. Then he began to tell them the story that had haunted him for 3 years. The enemy had set a trap. They knew the civilian evacuation routes and positioned their fleet to intercept. "We walked right into it." His voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly. "I had 3 choices. Retreat and let the civilians be captured, fight and probably lose everyone, or create a diversion that might save the transports but would definitely doom my battle group." "You chose the diversion," Captain Taeho said. "I ordered my ships to form a defensive line between the enemy and the civilian convoy. We held them off for 6 hours while the transports escaped. But one by one, my ships were destroyed." Medical Officer So Young, who had joined them on the bridge, listened with growing understanding. "You blame yourself for their deaths." "I gave the orders," Jin Woo said simply. "Every person who died because of my decision. Every civilian who lived because of that same decision," Hye-jin pointed out. Jin Woo shook his head. "That's what everyone said. That's what the medals and the ceremonies were supposed to be about. But all I could think about were the faces of my crew. People I had served with for years. People who had families waiting for them." Da-un checked her long-range scanners and gasped. "Admiral, there's something on our sensors. A large ship, dead in space." Everyone looked at the main display screen. In the distance, barely visible against the stars, was the dark outline of a massive starship. Even at this range, they could see it was badly damaged. "Can you identify it?" Captain Teho asked. Dayun ran the sensor data through the ship's computer. After a few moments, she looked up with shock on her face. "It's the Terra's Wrath. Your flagship, Admiral." Jinwoo stared at the screen in disbelief. His ship, the vessel he had commanded for 5 years, was still there. Still floating in space where he had left it 3 years ago. "How is that possible?" Boram asked. The report said it was completely destroyed. "The main hull broke apart," Jinwoo explained slowly. "But the command section must have survived. When the life support failed, I put the remaining crew in escape pods and launched them toward the nearest system. Then He stopped talking. "Then what?" Captain Teho prompted gently. "Then I was supposed to stay with my ship and die with honor," Jinwoo finished. "That's what a captain is supposed to do, but when the moment came, I couldn't do it. I took the last escape pod and ran." Security Chief Kyung Ho looked confused. "You survived. How is that running away?" "Because I abandoned my post," Jinwoo said. "I left my ship to drift alone in space while I saved myself. That's not what heroes do." "That's what smart people do," So Young said firmly. "Dead heroes can't save miners from storms. They can't deliver medical supplies to plague victims. They can't protect crews from electromagnetic chaos." But Jinwoo wasn't listening. He was staring at his old ship with an expression of pain and guilt. "Da-Yun," he said quietly. "Scan the Terra's Wrath for life signs." The communications officer adjusted her instruments. "Scanning now." After a few minutes, she shook her head. "No life signs. The ship is completely dead." "What about the ship's log, the navigation records?" "I'm detecting some residual power in the backup systems. The main computer might still be accessible." Jinwoo made a decision that surprised everyone. "Captain Teho, I need to board that ship." "Why?" "Because there are things on the Terra's Wrath that can't be left floating in space. Classified information, battle plans, personnel records of the crew members who died." Captain Teho studied Jinwoo's face. "That's not the real reason, is it?" Jinwoo was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I need to say goodbye." The captain nodded slowly. "I understand. But you're not going alone. If that ship is dangerous..." "It's my ship," Jinwoo said. "My responsibility." "No," Haijin interrupted. "You're part of this crew now. We don't leave crew members to face things alone." One by one, each member of the bridge crew volunteered to accompany Jinwoo to his old ship. Even Security Chief Kyung Ho, who had been suspicious of the human from the beginning. "Why?" Jinwoo asked. "You barely know me?" "We know enough," Boram said simply. "We know you saved our lives. We know you risked everything to rescue those miners. We know you're the kind of person who puts others before himself." "We know you're our friend," So Young added. Jinwoo felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 years. Warmth, acceptance, a sense of belonging. "The Terra's Wrath is a warship," he warned them. "It's designed for combat, not comfort. It will be dark and cold, maybe dangerous." "Then we better bring flashlights," Captain Teho said. 2 hours later, a small boarding party transferred from the Nexus Dawn to the derelict flagship. Jinwoo led them through the dark corridors of his former command, pointing out damaged A sections and explaining what had happened during the final battle. The bridge of the Terra's Wrath was exactly as Jinwoo had left it 3 years ago. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls. The command chair, where he had given his final orders, was still turned toward the main view screen. Dayun managed to power up the ship's computer using portable generators from the Nexus Dawn. "I'm accessing the final logs now." The main screen flickered to life, showing the last few hours of the Battle of Proxima Gate. Jinwoo watched himself giving orders to his crew, coordinating the defense of the civilian transports, making the impossible decisions that had saved millions of lives. But He also saw something else, something he had forgotten in his guilt and pain. "Look at your crew," Captain Tejo said softly. On the screen, the bridge crew of the Terra's Wrath worked with incredible dedication and courage. Even as their ship was being torn apart around them, they never wavered. They followed Jin Woo's orders without question because they believed in him. "They're not afraid," So Young observed. "Even knowing they're going to die, they're not afraid." "They trusted you," Boram said to Jin Woo. "Look at their faces. They knew you were doing the right thing." Jin Woo watched the final moments of his command. When he gave the order to abandon ship, his crew moved efficiently to the escape pods. No panic, no hesitation. They trusted their admiral to get them out alive, and he had. The sensor logs showed that all of the escape pods had reached safety. Every surviving crew member had made it to the nearest system. Jin Woo's guilt had been based on a lie he had told himself. "You didn't abandon them," Captain Tejo said. "You saved them." "All of them," Da-un added. "According to these records, every surviving crew member made it home safely." Jin Woo stared at the data in disbelief. For 3 years, he had carried the weight of imagined failure. But the truth was different. He had done exactly what a good commander should do. He had saved every life he could save. "Admiral," Kyung-ho said respectfully, "your crew would be proud of what you did today. Saving those miners, getting us through the storm, that's what heroes do." For the first time in 3 years, Jin Woo smiled. Not the sad, tired smile of a broken man, but the confident smile of someone who remembered who he really was. "Thank you," he said to all of them, "for showing me what I had forgotten." "What's that?" Captain Tejo asked. "That being a hero isn't about never failing, it's about never giving up on the people who need you." As they prepared to leave the Terra's Wrath, Jin Woo made one final entry in the ship's log. A message for anyone who might find the derelict vessel in the future, a record of the courage and sacrifice of his crew, and a promise that their deaths had meaning because the lives they saved would continue to make the galaxy a better place. "Ready to go home?" Captain Tejo asked. Jin Woo looked around the bridge of his old ship one last time. Then he turned toward his new family, the crew that had helped him find himself again. "Yes," he said. "I'm ready." The boarding party was preparing to return to the Nexus Dawn when Communications Officer Dae-un noticed something on her portable scanner. "Admiral," she said urgently, "I'm detecting a massive power buildup in your ship's core." Jin Woo rushed to look at the readings. His face went pale. "That's impossible. The Terra's Wrath has been dead for 3 years. The fusion reactor is showing signs of critical instability," Da-un continued. "It's like something is causing a delayed chain reaction." Jin Woo studied the data carefully, then his eyes widened with understanding. "The storm, the electromagnetic pulses from the nebula must have reactivated some of the damaged power systems. The reactor is trying to restart itself, but the control circuits are too damaged to regulate it properly." "What does that mean?" Captain Tejo asked. "It means in about 2 hours, this ship is going to explode with the force of a small star," Jin Woo replied grimly. Boram checked her own instruments. "An explosion that size would create a shock wave visible from 3 star systems. Any ship within 50 million kilometers would be destroyed." "How many ships are in this area?" Security Chief Kyung-ho asked. Da-un was already scanning space around them. "At least 40 vessels. Cargo ships, passenger liners, mining operations. Most of them are taking shelter from the storm in this sector because it's supposedly safe." Jin Woo felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders again. Thousands of innocent people were about to die unless someone stopped the Terra's Wrath from exploding. "Can we evacuate them in time?" Captain Tejo asked. "Not all of them," Da-un replied. "Some of the ships are too far away to reach before the explosion." "What about stopping the reactor?" Medical Officer So Young suggested. "The control systems are too damaged," Jinwoo explained. The only way to stop it would be to manually shut down the fusion core from inside the reactor chamber. Then let's do it, Hyejin said. Jinwoo shook his head. The reactor chamber is flooded with radiation. Anyone who goes in there will die. Within minutes. How long would it take to shut down the core? Boram asked. About 10 minutes for a complete shutdown. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Someone would have to sacrifice their life to save the other ships. I'll do it, Jinwoo said quietly. It's my ship, my responsibility. No, Captain Taeho said firmly. We'll find another way. There is no other way, Jinwoo replied. And this is how it should be. 3 years ago, I ran away from my duty. Now I have a chance to make it right. You didn't run away, So Young protested. You saved your crew. And now I can save thousands more people, Jinwoo said. This is what I was meant to do. But as Jinwoo prepared to enter the reactor chamber alone, something unexpected happened. One by one, every member of the boarding party stepped forward. You're not doing this alone, Captain Taeho announced. This is suicide, Jinwoo protested. You have no reason to throw your lives away. We have the best reason in the galaxy, Boram said. You're our friend. More than that, Kyung-ho added. You're our leader. Leaders don't abandon their crews, and crews don't abandon their leaders. Da-eun was working on her portable computer. Wait, I might have found something. Admiral, your ship has emergency containment fields in the reactor chamber, right? Yes, but they're designed to contain plasma leaks, not full radiation exposure. What if we modified them? Da-eun continued. Use the same principle you used. To navigate the storm, instead of fighting the radiation, we work with it. Jinwoo looked at her readings. You want to create a radiation tunnel. Channel the energy away from the work area. Exactly. It would only give us partial protection, but it might be enough. Might be enough for one person, Jinwoo said. Not for a whole group. Then we work faster, Hyejin said simply. Instead of one person taking 10 minutes, 6 people take 2 minutes each. Jinwoo realized what they were proposing. A relay system. Each person works for a short time, then passes the job to the next person. We could shut down the reactor before anyone receives a lethal dose of radiation. Will it work? Captain Taeho asked. I don't know, Jinwoo admitted. We'd be improvising everything. One mistake and we all die. Then we don't make mistakes, Boram said with determination. For the next hour, they worked together to prepare for the most dangerous mission any of them had ever attempted. Jinwoo used his knowledge of the ship's systems to map out the shutdown procedure. Da-eun modified portable shield generators to create their radiation tunnel. Boram calculated the exact timing needed for each stage of the relay. Remember, Jinwoo told them as they prepared to enter the reactor chamber, we get one chance at this. The radiation levels will increase every minute. If anyone feels sick or dizzy, they have to leave immediately. Understood, the team replied. They entered the reactor chamber through an airlock that hadn't been opened in 3 years. The room was vast, filled with massive machines and pipes that carried the power of a controlled star. In the center, the fusion core pulls,